Okay, hey guys, it's Dean here from Convertbox, and I'm very excited to announce that we've just rolled out a big update which includes a lot of powerful features. We've got new features for conditional logic, for both actions, integrations, we've got skip logic, quiz features, lots and lots of new stuff to go through. So without further ado, let's jump into this video and I can walk you through all of the new features that we've added to the platform. Okay, so here we are in the editor. And the new features that we've added are essentially split into three different areas. So we'll go through each of these areas one by one, and then we can look at some use cases for these features. So let's start by looking at the button action. So if we select this button and we select button settings from the sidebar, this is going to open a modal. So if we look under the button actions, we've got our usual options here as before for jump to next step, redirect to URL, and the rest. But below we've got a couple of new options. So the first option that we've added here is the option to apply a custom field name and value to the button. So what this allows you to do is essentially set a value and a custom field name for this button. And when that button is selected, that field will be queued along with the value so that it can be submitted and passed through to your email service provider on the next form. So this can be really useful if you've got multiple options on your Convertbox and you need to pass the selection that the visitor's chosen through to your email service provider as a custom field. Now the second new option that we've added under the button actions is the ability to apply a quiz score value to the button. So if you select this option, it's going to have a field here where you can apply a point score. So in this case we could put 10 points, and when this button is selected it's going to apply those 10 points to the visitor. Now, if you have multiple options going through each step of your Convertbox, you can set different point scores for different options, and then you can use the sum of those points at the end of the process to trigger conditional logic. So for example, if the visitor got, say, over 100 points, then you could apply a specific tag or redirect them to a specific step or URL based on that quiz score. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of the new features that are available in our form action. So if we select the form element, you're going to see that we now have just one option here for form setting. In this modal, you'll see that there are three tabs. We've got one for the form fields, which is where you can manage all the fields for the form. We've got a tab here for actions, which is where you set what you want to happen when the form is submitted. And then we've got one for integrations, which is where you set the integrations that you want to trigger when the form is submitted. So let's take a look at the Actions tab. You'll see that now we have two sections under the Actions tab. We have the default actions, which is where you set what you want to happen when this form is submitted. And here you'll find that we have the usual options as before for go to next step, jump to a specific step, redirect to a URL, and the others. Then we also have this new section below for conditional actions. And this is where you can set actions that will only take place when specific conditions are met. So if we select this option here, you can see that we've got a few conditional rules. We've got button selected. If we select this, it will allow you to select from all the buttons in your Convertbox. We have button selected is not. We have quiz score range, which allows you to set a range for the quiz score. We have selected form fields is or is not. So for example, we could set this condition to be if the button selected is male and if the quiz score range is between 0 and 10, then we want to jump to a specific step or redirect to a URL. We can also fire tracking scripts, which will only fire when this condition is met. So there's a lot of powerful stuff in here. And when you add this action, you'll see that it shows up just here with the conditional rules and then the action that will take place. So now let's take a look at the integrations tab. And as with the actions tab, you'll see that we have the default integrations and then we have conditional integrations. So the default integrations will be the integrations you set to run when this form is submitted, and the conditional integrations allow you to set integrations that will only fire if specific conditions are met. So let's say, for example, you want to add all the contacts that submit this form to your ActiveCampaign list. So if we just go in here and select add to list, and we'll just add this to new leads. So all the contacts are going to be added to this list for new leads. And now you may want to apply tags based on specific conditions. So we could go into here, add a conditional integration, And we could say that when the button selected is, for example, male, and again, the quiz score is between 1 and let's say 50, then we want to trigger this integration for our ActiveCampaign account, and we want to add a new tag for beginner. And now you can see that it's reflected here. So we have the default integration, add to ActiveCampaign list new leads, and then conditional integrations. If the button selected is male and the quiz score range is between 0 and 50, then we're adding it to the ActiveCampaign tag beginner. And we'll get into more use cases in a minute, but as you can see, it's super powerful stuff. Now I've got one more new feature to show you that we've actually added to our steps. And that is the ability to set skip logic on the steps. So in some cases, you may not be using a form in your Convertbox, and after the segmentation process, you might just want to redirect them based on conditional rules without them having to go through a form. And in those cases, you'll want to use the skip logic. So let's just take a quick look at this. And if we select the skip logic icon, it's going to open a modal where again you have a couple of sections. So the first section here is for skip options. So if you want to apply an analyzing results animation before showing the step or running the skip logic, then you can simply select this option and you can add your own message here. And what's going to happen here is it's going to show a screen for a few seconds before actually running the skip logic. Now, without this option set, then the conditional logic that you set on the step is just going to happen almost instantaneously. So from the visitor's perspective, it's just instant. Whereas if you select this option, it shows them that we're actually calculating an outcome that's personalized for them based on the previous options they selected. And from my experience, using this option here, it increases the uptake and the conversions on the following step. So when you select this option, it's going to show that analyzing results screen before showing the step or running any skip logic. So let's take a quick look at the skip logic. If we select this button, it's going to open a modal that's going to look quite familiar now. So if these conditions are met, and again, you can add conditions such as button selected, quiz score range, or field selected, and then you can perform a specific action such as jumping to a step, redirecting to a URL, and as before, you can fire tracking scripts based on these conditions as well. So very powerful stuff. And now let's take a look at some actual use cases for all these powerful features. Okay, so let's start by looking at a simple example of where you might use conditional logic if you had an opt-in form with some consent checkboxes. So here we've got a very simple Convertbox. We are collecting the name and email, and we have a couple of additional options here. So we have one here that's yes, I want to receive your weekly newsletter with more tips of growing my business. And then we have another consent option here, which is yes, please inform me about special offers related to this subject. So this is something that's really common. And what we can do now is we can set some conditional logic based on these fields. So if we select the form and then we go to form settings, we can go to actions. And in this case, we don't really need to set any conditional actions. We're just going to set the default action to go to the next step. But if we go to integrations, we're going to set a couple of different integrations here. So first of all, we want to add everyone that submits this form to a specific list. So I'm just going to go in here quickly and select this ActiveCampaign, and we're going to add all of these to a list for new leads. Okay, so now we can add conditional integrations based on the checkboxes for the consent. So if we add a conditional integration here and we select the rule and we go to field selected is, and in the drop down here we have the two fields that are on the form. We have the checkbox here for the newsletter and the checkbox for the offers. So I'm going to select the newsletter field, and then what we can do here is we can go to ActiveCampaign again, and now we can add a new tag for newsletter. So I'm going to add this integration, and now we can add another one again. So we're going to go to field selected is, and then we're going to select offers. And again, we can add another tag now for this specific checkbox. So we're going to add a new tag here for offers, and then we're going to add this integration. So now we're all done. So what's going to happen here is when the form's submitted, it's going to add the contacts to this list. And if they select the checkbox for the newsletter, then they're going to have an active campaign tag for newsletter. And if they selected the field for offers, then we will add an active campaign tag for offers. So there's a very quick and simple example of how you can use conditional logic for your consent on the form. Okay, so now let's look at something a little bit more advanced. Here's a Convertbox that I've created as an example. You can see here it's find your ideal workout program, take our quick survey and we'll match you with the perfect workout program. Okay, so when they select this button, it's going to open the next step, which is the first in a series of segmentation steps. So to begin with, we have the gender, which is male or female. That's going to take them to the next step where they can select their age. And then we have a step where we ask them their experience level, how many push-ups they can do, how many pull-ups they can do. And that's the end of the segmentation questions. And then we have 3 different outcomes. So we have outcome for beginners, an outcome for intermediate, and an outcome for advanced. Now you'll notice that on these outcome steps that we have this tag here for quiz, and this dynamically adds their quiz score into the step. You can access this by going to the personalization options and then selecting quiz score. So what we're going to do here is create a type of quiz, and then we're going to segment them based on their quiz score. So if we go to the steps for experience, push-ups and pull-ups, what we've actually done is added a score for each of these buttons. So we've added 10 points for the first option, 20 points for the second option, and 30 points for the third option. It's a good idea to keep them in round numbers if you're going to do this, because it makes it really quick to add them up and figure out where you want to set your ranges for the conditional actions and integrations. So if I just take a look at this button here, we go to the button settings, you can see that we've applied a quiz score value of 10 points on this one. And if we select the next button, you can see we've applied 20 points. And if we select this button, you can see we've applied 30 points. And we've done this for each of these 3 steps. So we've done it for push-ups as well, and we've done it for pull-ups. So in this example, we're going to run them through the segmentation process, and then we're going to show them an outcome. And these outcomes here have a button on them, which is then going to redirect them to a page tailored for that specific offer. So in this case, we don't have a form to run the conditional logic on, so we're going to use the step skip logic. Now, this is the beginner's outcome. So this is going to be our default outcome. It's the first step that they go to after the segmentation steps. And what we're going to do here is select the skip logic option, and we're going to add some skip logic here that's going to pass them on to the outcome for intermediate and advanced if they meet those conditional rules. So first of all, I'm going to select this option because I do want to show this. You could change this to whatever you like though. We could put here finding a perfect workout program or whatever suits the type of quiz or segmentation process that you're creating. Now we're going to add some conditional skip logic here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the quiz score range. And as we have 3 steps, the maximum score that they can get is 90 points. So between 0 and 30 points, we actually don't want to run any skip logic, and we just want to show this step for beginners. So anything more than 30 points, so if we go 31 points onwards, let's say to 60 points, then what we want to do is we want to jump to the step for intermediate. So let's add that action now. So you can see it says if quiz score range is between 31 and 60, then we're going to open the step outcome intermediate. Now we're going to add another skip logic here. And again, we're going to go to quiz score range. And now we're going to set this between 61 and the maximum score, which is 90. And we're going to jump to step advanced. Okay, so we've added that. And that's the process really set up as far as skip logic goes. So what's going to happen now is that they're going to go through the segmentation process. We'll start from the beginning. They're going to go for the first step. They're going to select the button. They're going to select their gender, age, their experience levels, and here is where we've applied the point score. So they're going to select all of these options, and then when they finish this process here, they're going to go to the outcome beginners step. And if you remember, we've selected this option here, so it's going to show this analyzing results before running any skip logic. And then based on their total score for the quiz on the previous steps, they're going to be redirected to either the beginners, the intermediate if their score was between 30 and 60, and the advanced if their score was between 60 and 90. So now that's all set up, let's take a look how it looks on the live website. Okay, so I'm going to select start the quiz, we're going to select male, select the age, work out occasionally, between 11 and 20, more than 20, it's analyzing our results, and it's going to show us the step based on our quiz score. So as you can see, we've got this quiz score of 70, and because it's over 60, it's showing us the advanced workout step. Okay, so now let's look at that same example again, only this time we're going to actually ask them to opt into our form before we show them their results. So just running through this quickly, like before, we have the segmentation process that we're going to put them through. And then after the final question, we're going to show them this form. And then it's going to say sign up below to see your ideal workout program. They'll put in their name and email. And then what we want to do is add some conditional logic to this form because we want to redirect them to the outcome based on their quiz score. And we also want to add some conditional logic for our integrations. So to do this, we simply select our form, we go to form settings, and let's start on the actions tab. So the default action is to go to the next step, which is our beginner's step. So that's fine. And now we want to set some conditional actions so that we can jump them to the intermediate and advanced step. So let's add a conditional action here. And as before, we're going to select the quiz score range. And so between 0 and 30, we don't want to do anything because we want it to use the default action and take them to the next step. But if they score between 31 and 60, then as before, we want to jump to the step for intermediate. So we're going to add that one in there. And then we're going to add another rule here again for quiz score between 61 and 90. And then we're going to jump to the step advanced. Okay, so that's our conditional actions done. Now let's go to the integrations tab. So let's add an integration here for the ActiveCampaign account, and we'll add them to a list here for new leads. And then we're going to add the conditional integrations based on the quiz score. So let's go ahead and add our conditional integrations now. So we're going to select quiz score, and between 0 and 30, we want to add a tag in ActiveCampaign for beginner. So let's go ahead and add that condition. Now let's add another condition, this time for the quiz score to be between 31 and 60. And we want to add a tag for this one to be intermediate. And one more, we want to, again, quiz score value between 61 and the top score, which is 90. And in this case, we want to add a final tag here for advanced. So now you can see that we have the default integration. So when this form is submitted, they're going to be added to this list in ActiveCampaign. And then if the quiz score ranges between 0 and 30, we're going to add the tag beginner. If the quiz score ranges between 31 and 60, then we're going to add the tag intermediate. And if the quiz score ranges between 61 and 90, then we're going to add the tag advanced. So as you can probably see, we're really just scratching the surface here of what is possible using all of these powerful new features. So I hope you like all of these new features that we've added. This is Dean from Convertbox. Bye for now.